So as you know, a lot of people in society are frustrated. They have a lot of ill will, anger. The fundamental reason is because there are insufficient sources of self-esteem. As I've said many times in this channel, in order to really counter the insignificance and finitude represented by death, we would need a really strong sense of cosmic significance, and we don't get that with our daily roles in society, or even enough distraction and escapism with hedonism, drugs, alcohol, shopping, entertainment. So one of the various ways in which we express the frustration with our lack of self-esteem is sadism. Now, sadism, there's an American psychiatrist, I think his name was Millen, William Millen maybe, but he spelled out 4 kinds of sadism. One being what he called explosive sadism. We all know what that is, the maniac torturing you and so on. Then tyrannical sadism, the person with power, or trying to impose his frame upon you and being cruel and callous and so on. Then spineless sadism. So you have the the individual in the crowd, like the old lady is saying kill him, to somebody who's about to be hung or something, just basically from a position of weakness, expressing that sadism. And then the most interesting to me is what's called enforcing sadism, which is through the supposedly legitimate apparatus of the law or some other social system. You express your sadism. So the judge hits the table with a gavel and says 20 years to prison, and she may be harboring all kinds of ill will and unwholesome emotions within her, but she is covering them with the legitimacy of the law. A cop the same way. He may be a little bit extra harsh, let's say. He puts that knee on your chest a little harder, but he's doing it under the guise of enforcing the law. He's called law enforcement officer and so on. I mean, there are many examples of this. Somebody who is bossy at work, right? Maybe we have to get this done. I told you by 5 o'clock. Things like that. It's like the rules of the institution are used as a guise to express this anger, this ill will, this frustration, which stems fundamentally from the lack of self-esteem that society provides. Now, some people will say that it's really the lack of say, for example, hedonic satisfaction, like sexual, like maybe you're not getting laid or something. And from the perspective that I mentioned here, it is not sufficient to have hedonic satisfaction. So even if you are having a lot of sex or shooting up a lot of heroin and so on, I mean, that is certainly going to make you less insistent upon expressing your frustrations some other way. But it's not an ego cure. That's an escapist route. And so in some way I don't think that's all that useful, unless you can maintain that hedonic treadmill for the rest of your life. Basically you spend your life in an alcoholic stupor or an opiate dream of some sort. But I thought it was interesting also to look at the angle of facial expression. So remember, some years ago I read this book called Unmasking the Face. This is an excellent book, probably the best book. I think it was written in the 60s, late 60s, by Paul Ekman, and he discovered the universality of facial expressions and how tribes who had never been to civilization and so on actually made the same exact facial expressions, the fundamental ones. And then, including micro expressions, which are, expressions that come on in a fraction of a second. And if you can read that, you can actually read a lot of what the individual is feeling, even unconsciously. But anyway, the point being that, a question arises, what is the facial expression of a sadist? Now, this is not obvious unless you have an explosive sadist, because that's the most overt expression of this, and that would be a sort of a background of anger, right? With a certain satisfaction, like that's the sort of sadistic facial expression, a mixture of satisfaction with a background of anger, and the ecstatic nature of the happiness expressed, I suppose, comes from the intensity of the anger. Of course, we know about emotional redirection. You can redirect at least certain portions of any emotion towards some other emotion. But quite clearly that's what it is. And so, we see in the doctrine of Buddhism this focus on what's often termed the most poisonous of the 5 hindrances, and that is ill will, right? Just having this anger and ill will within you being expressed in ways that are very, very subtle. I mean, a lot of things are expressed in subtle ways. Even one thing that I was surprised to find out, for example, is that old man who no longer can express their sexuality, they may express, they may sublimate that and then express it in other ways. Maybe they will be looking at certain things more or compensate in some other way. I can't tell you exactly, but it's a very well-known phenomenon that we sublimate certain strong emotions into other behaviors. And so in the case of anger, frustration, it can come out in very subtle ways. And as I was saying, our very institutions can embody some of these features and can become a cover for them.